Hello and welcome back to Planet Nibiru, where anything is possible. Today we're discussing one of the oldest electrical mysteries in the world, the mystery of the Baghdad Battery. Perhaps one of the strangest mysteries of ancient times wasn't formally discovered until the 1930s. This discovery was made in modern-day Iraq in the Kuju-Rabu province, close to the ancient metropolis of Ctesiphon, which was the capital of ancient Parthian and Sassanian empires. These batteries consist of clay pots with copper tubes and iron bars inside them that form rudimentary batteries. The original purpose of these batteries remains unclear, with many different hypotheses suggested as possible uses for them. While the purpose is questionable, the functionality cannot be denied. These vessels were certainly capable of holding an electrical charge for later use. This fact alone sheds new light on the ancient Sumerian cultures. It has been hypothesized by some researchers that the batteries functioned as a galvanic cell, possibly used for electroplating or some kind of electrotherapy. But there are no electro-gilded objects known from this time period. Now that doesn't mean that none ever existed, just that we haven't found any. There is an old traditional aphorism that says, "The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence." Now this logic applies in many situations and can be followed as this. The lack of evidence for a thing does not equal evidence against that thing. I really like this adage because it illustrates a nice logic path. But back to the batteries. One interesting part of this theory is that these batteries are believed to be galvanic or voltaic cells, which are self-contained electrical generators that produce electricity from the spontaneous chemical reactions contained in the cell. So these batteries would in effect be small generators that can be moved and placed anywhere to produce electricity wherever and whenever needed. Again, changing our understanding of these supposedly primitive times. When we add electricity into the equation, these possibilities for these ancient civilizations are expanded immensely. If they had electricity, did they have light? Conventional theory limits the use of these batteries to either electroplating, gilding, which is basically a process of creating a thin layer of soft metals over other harder metals. This process has been used for many, many years to gold plate jewelry or other objects that are meant to have the look of gold without being solid gold throughout. But what other uses might there be for batteries or small electrical generators? Well, anything really. Could be just about anything. Portable power supplies in ancient Persia. That in itself is completely mind-blowing, but to think of the devices that they could have powered, well, that's amazing. To think that they could have had electrical power makes it a bit easier to see how things like the pyramids could be built. Now, many historians and others say that there is no evidence that these power cells were used to power anything, and that is true. But there is also no evidence against it either. When you look at some of the mysteries from antiquity, such as the Great Pyramids or Machu Picchu, you may wonder if these alone aren't evidence that power or energy was being used in ancient times. To be able to build on that level and scale and precision is pretty awesome nowadays with access to all the advanced tools that we have. But to do it in ancient times with no tools or no equipment is totally mind-boggling. So perhaps these ancient batteries or power cells are indeed proof that energy was being used to power certain types of equipment back then. Wilhelm Koenig was an assistant at the National Museum of Iraq in the 1930s. He had observed a number of very fine silver objects from ancient Iraq that were plated with very thin layers of gold, and he speculated that they were electroplated. In 1938, he authored a paper offering the hypotheses that ancient Persians may have formed a galvanic cell and perhaps used it for electroplating gold onto silver objects. After the Second World War, a man named Willard Gray demonstrated current production by reconstruction of the Baghdad Battery. In this design, he filled it with grape juice. Another researcher by the name of W. Jansen experimented with benzoquinone, which some beetles actually produce quinones, and vinegar in a cell, and he actually got satisfactory performance with that setup as well. Again in 1978, Arne Eggebrecht reportedly reproduced electroplating of gold onto a small silver statue using small voltaic cells of this design. So we know that even at their most rudimentary, these batteries or cells were capable of delivering significant energy supplies. They would be capable of delivering plenty enough energy to use them in electrotherapy for medical purposes. They could have easily lit a bulb and could have been built to power things such as low energy LEDs that could have been powered for days on just a small amount of citrus juice or vinegar. These simple batteries can be assembled from a cork, copper tube, an iron bar, and a clay pot. With some vinegar as an electrolyte solution, you can generate a steady half volt. And by wiring them in series, you can scale this model up to generate just about as much power as you would need. So it's time for you guys to weigh in. What do you think about the ancient Persians using these power cells? Do you think that they had lights? Do you think that they used it for some type of magic to produce a shock or a jolt that fooled people into believing in a hidden power or a ghost or a god of some kind? Do you think that they were used for electrotherapy, perhaps in the stimulation of muscles? Get in the comment section and let us know what you think. And as always, we thank you guys for your likes, subscribes, and comments, and we'll see you in the next video.